I see myself as a Silicon Valley historian, and I always carry my camera, but I don't study the history of the past. I study the history of the future. I'm not wearing shoes. And the reason is I was at TED last year, and this speaker, Dan Lieberman, who's a Harvard professor, gave a really great talk about the health benefits of running barefoot. And that actually transformed a lot of runners' lives, and in fact launched a new shoe brand. You might have seen them around Silicon Valley with the five-toed shoes that look a little goofy. But backstage, Garima, who's one of the volunteers, she runs the volunteers backstage, she's from India, and she said, that's really cool, because in India, we don't wear our shoes anywhere that you respect. Take that on there. And so I'm respecting the red stage. I have a question, and I need a volunteer. Maybe we can turn up the lights a little bit. You ain't getting my $100. I'll take you right there. It's a really easy question. Which would you rather have, a penny or $100,000? $100,000, right? What if I turned that around a little bit and said, well, this penny has magical powers, and it will enrich your life sometime in the future? Would you still make the same choice? You take the penny. That's pretty interesting, because most people would, because they think I'm selling them a bill of goods. Right? They'll take the $100,000 today. One of my favorite questions is, would you rather have $100,000 or a penny that doubles every day for a month? Right? And the people here who know math know that the penny that doubles every day of the month turns into 2 pennies, then 4, then 8. And at the end of the month, you end up with $5.5 million. I study pennies. I study people who make pennies and who try to create a doubling penny. And I'm not that good at it. The resistance to taking that penny, that doubling penny, is something I've noticed by going around and talking to visionaries. By the way, somewhere in this room is Bill Atkinson. Bill, are you here? Over here, yeah. He's Apple's first software engineer, and most of my friends say he's the best software engineer the world's ever seen. So I hope you take it in good humor as to what I found, which are that visionaries are douchebags. And I learned this by visiting with Doug Engelbart, one of our best visionaries, one of the top visionaries of all time that we've seen. For those who don't know, he's the guy who invented the mouse. There he is showing my son the original mouse, which he pulled out of a camera box in his house. And I'm like, that belongs in the Smithsonian, dude. But he told me a story that he got kicked out of Silicon Valley's most famous research lab, SRI, which continues to be very interesting. I just got a tour there a couple weeks ago. And I asked him, why did you get kicked out? You know, and the story is that his ideas were too weird. Everybody thought he was a douchebag, including his fellow researchers. And I said, how did they do it? How did human beings see that people who are visionary and trying to get us to change, how did that happen? He said, go back to the 1970s. He goes, computers were very, very expensive. You didn't have one in your house. You probably have never touched one as a normal human being. Only 2 kinds of people touched computers back in those days, either a PhD or a researcher at Stanford or somewhere, or a data entry clerk, a secretary who was entering census data or retail sales information at Mervyn's or Sears or something like that. And so the researchers, the people who came up with our industry, couldn't envision the day when we would have an iPad that had more power on it than even the best computer back then. But he did. He was able to see in his head the day that we now are living in, where we can tweet and talk to each other and touch and interact with a computer. The problem was everybody around him couldn't see this, even though he had done the mother of all demos. And when you get home, go to Google and search mother of all demos. You'll find his speech in 1967 when he showed what basically became the Macintosh in 1984. Now, I've found a few other douchebags along the way. This guy, he wrote the software that's in the self-driving car. And when I first met him at Stanford, he was painting a picture for me that I didn't believe. He said, computers will drive our cars in the future, and we're not going to touch the steering wheel or the brakes or the gas. A computer's going to do that. And I said, you've got to be kidding. How can it do that? How can it deal with all the variances in the roadway and the turns and everything like that? And he said, well, we have it running on the test track, and we made it work for DARPA. I said, you're nuts. You're never going to get approval to drive that thing on the road. And Sebastian, who was his boss or ran the team that came up with this thing, just gave a TED Talk just a few weeks ago and was giving people rides in it. I was driving down 280 one day and saw this car. I thought it was the mapping car. It was driving right next to me, and I had no clue this was the car that they designed, right? And the fun thing is the thing spinning on the top is a LiDAR machine. And the guy who built it, Dave Hall, used to build subwoofers down here in Morgan Hill. I used to sell his subwoofers in my speaker store, in my consumer electronics store. There's a few other douchebags. Mark Zuckerberg. Of course, when I first met him, Facebook wasn't the thing that my wife and my dad are on. My dad just got on Facebook for the first time 2 weeks ago, right? This is how long it takes for visionaries who see something that they see in their head to translate to the mainstream, to get normal, everyday people to use. But he kept telling me about this world where we're going to have real-time interactions and photos and the ability to talk with people around the world. You know, Ev Williams and Biz Stone, who started Twitter. You know, I knew Ev back when he ran Blogger. Hyra was the company. And he was out of money. He was broke. He laid off all his employees. This is right around 2000 when I first started getting into blogging. And these two guys and Jack Dorsey, who came up with the idea for Twitter on a weekend. And Jack Dorsey now is building all sorts of stuff that's fun, like Square, which is a new reader that lets you take money on your iPhone or iPad. Some of the charity people will use that in the future to hit us up in the hallways here. But they're building a system that in fact, even last night I was arguing with somebody. Somebody told me at dinner, a speaker here told me, I still don't get this Twitter thing. I said, you're going to get the news from it, you know? And I can show you now a thing called Flipboard, which came out last year. Let me pull it up. And if you haven't seen Flipboard, here's Flipboard showing the TED Twitter account, and it turns it into a magazine with pictures. And I have a list of world news sources like The Economist and CNN and Fox and all the different news brands, all in one list, and it turns it into a magazine, a real-time magazine. This is pretty remarkable. It won Best App of the Year last year from Apple. And it's building on top of what these guys built. Some other douchebags. Alexa. How many people use food spotting here? Not many. Well, she has a vision. She has a vision for how you're going to find a restaurant in the future. It's called food spotting. You put it on your phone, and it shows you pictures that other people have taken of meals. I find it quite magical. I love the app, and about 1 million people have loaded it so far. Dennis Crowley started Foursquare. How many people are checked in here on Foursquare? Just a few. Well, by checking in here and announcing to the world or announcing to the service that you're here, now it can give you tips about what else to do in this neighborhood. When I checked in Paris, it told me the best French bakery was right around the corner. It's really cool. So now I'm going to do something that's never been done on stage here, show you something you haven't seen. And these guys came up to me a couple weeks ago and said, you know, we're building on top of the Silicon Valley or San Francisco area innovations. We're building on top of Twitter and on top of Facebook, on top of YouTube. And how many people have an iPad here? Just a little bit. Quite a few. Shows you another innovator called Steve Jobs has changed our lives, right? And so I begged him. I said, I got to be able to show a little bit of this for the first time in the world. And what it does is takes your social graph and builds a wall of video. And let me make sure I can see here. It builds a wall of video, thousands of videos. And this is video from my friends who have recommended it to me or whatnot. There's Craig Newmark. And different videos. Now, another team at Apple has done something pretty remarkable. If I had a big screen here with my Apple TV on it, I could demo it for you. But they built a protocol called AirPlay. How many people have used AirPlay before? Just a handful. Again, visionary douchebags who are trying to change our lives. So in AirPlay, there would be another button over here when I'm at home. And it lets me click that button, and instantly it appears on my big screen at home. And so now I'm watching YouTube, and I'm able to display this on my large screen TV, right? That's magical. Well, they're going to take this grid, and they're going to put all the TED videos in it. So you're going to have 900 videos to fly through, like that. And by the way, it goes to Twitter every 2 minutes right now, maybe faster when it gets released. It's a free app, by the way, and it'll be released in a couple of weeks. So you're seeing it for the first time in the world right now. And you're going to be able to put your Twitter or your Facebook friends in here, and any video that they share with you will show up on this grid, and you'll be able to fly through the grid, click on any video, and start watching it. And then if you have an Apple TV at home, you can click AirPlay and watch it on your big screen, which is quite remarkable. They're going to add a lot of features. Right now it's a little early. They're going to add, I've asked them to put search in here so you could search for different things like, earthquake, and see all the Japanese tsunami videos, a few of which I see in here. But this is quite remarkable stuff, and it builds on top. This is Silicon Valley, right? This is built here in San Francisco. And it builds on top of the, let me turn that off. It builds on top of the innovations that have been built here before. Some other things that are really fun in Silicon Valley, and maybe we can talk about some fun stories. There's another app, I don't have my iPhone, that lets me actually watch TV and I turn on my app. I think it's called On Now. And it uses the audio signal from the TV signal, goes to server. There's a server farm that for the last 5 years has been watching 130 channels of TV and recording the audio footprint in the TV. And so you can just hold your iPhone up or whatever. Do you have it? What's it called? Into Now, yeah. So you just hold up your iPhone, your app. It listens to the TV and tells you what channel you're watching and checks you in, just like Foursquare, and tells your friends, thanks, man, tells your friends what channel you're watching, which is a lot of fun. Now it's changing our social behavior. These guys have a vision. It's like, well, how do we make TV different? How do we make it more social? How do you find out and discover new kinds of TV? Eventually, I want to see it joined up with the Show You app, right, and bring those streams into a display where I can just click on them and choose them myself. As I've grown up here, so there's a lot of stories that I could tell of douchebags who have tried to change our lives over the last few years. And I think, the TED lesson I'd like to leave you all with is embrace douchebags, because they might turn out to be like Bill Atkinson and change your world and show you a new way to live. Since I am a historian, I want the house lights up because I'm going to take a picture of you guys as the official picture. So please turn on the, yeah, there we go. All right, and I'm going to take a few of them here. There we go. Hopefully that'll turn into some sort of 360-degree picture. Thank you very much.